Roll, please.
So Mel Gibson shot a single prop airplane movie with the DJI chicken head run and gun camera. Get me on a plane. Today, I'm taking you behind the scenes as we explore the virtual cinematography of flight risk and the thought process behind this multi-hyphenated maverick filmmaker with his latest project. I feel like behind the scenes of this movie in particular would be a masterclass on LED volume cinematography, just like how do you pull this thing off and make it look real, because it looks real. Now I have my own list of questions for Mel. He's a larger-than-life character, but one of importance in the film world. One whose body of work has pulled off Herculean feats of filmmaking in the past and impacted multi-generations of filmmakers. I have to admit, I'm excited to meet and talk to one of the few artists who has achieved something only a handful of others have. Although, I haven't even seen the damn film, so now we gotta see the film. Let's go. Lionsgate, woo! All right, so I'm here in Santa Monica, my old stomping grounds. We're gonna go see a screening of Flight Risk. I have no idea what this movie is about, but we're gonna see. I'm excited. Wowie. Now, I will save my personal review for the film for another video, but I will say it's not exactly what they did that has my interest, but how they did it and what tools they used to pull it off. Bam! So tell me about this. Mel, you've done some incredible films. You've done Braveheart, Passion of the Christ, Apocalypto, Hacksaw Ridge.
Where the hell are they? I can't see nothing!
Now we're airplane film.
Yeah, most of those films were done on film cameras, you know. The first time I went digital completely was on Apocalypto, and that was with something called the Genesis, which is kind of pretty old school now.
I've never even heard of that. I'm like,
Panavision Genesis, yeah.
My God. Panavision introduced the Genesis in 2004, a 12.4 megapixel Super 35 digital camera, the first of its kind to seamlessly intercut digital and film footage while using a true Super 35 sensor. Now, Apocalypto was one of the first films to adopt the system. While this camera has no relevance to Mel Gibson's current film, Flight Risk, at the time it was seen as a bold choice, highlighting Gibson's tendency to embrace unproven filmmaking technology and push it to its limits.
Your neck okay? You got a scratch there.
Maintenance. Occupational hazard.
Now, I may be trolling Sony hard here. Flight Risk was mostly shot on the Sony Venice, except for the most important pivotal parts.
We had a 90-minute window to shoot. We had to jump in, grab the DJI, get the operator, throw them in the back. Those ended up being our hero shots.
But the larger part of the story isn't the role of the Ronin 4D and its slow and steady proliferation into more and more Hollywood films. It's the crazy behind the scenes of this production, of filming a single location airplane film and shooting 99% of it on one of the tallest temporary LED structures built to date. A 33-foot, 270-degree immersive volume and a plane on a gimbal with a DP shooting their first virtual production film.
That was kind of worth it.
Well, you guys did something extraordinary on this film in that you guys built your own LED volume. 95% of this film takes place in the cockpit. Was it 360-degree volume?
270-degree volume.
Yeah, I thought it was 280, but 270, close enough. I mean.
270. I could have used that extra 10%.
Yeah. Hey, couldn't we all?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
What was that like? That was a first for you?
Yes, first time.
How did that idea come to be?
Well, it made financial sense. You know, we had to do it fast, and we had to be in the Alaskan Alps, and to actually fly around the Alaskan Alps would be ridiculous.
Did you know that when you were reading the script that like this is going to be either green screen or Okay, you guys built it. You built one of the biggest
We
ones?
did. I think it was probably the second biggest volume in the United States at the time.
How tall was it?
33 feet high.
33 feet high.
Because we looked at a couple. There was a freestanding one already in Vegas, and it just wasn't big enough. We got together with David Meyer, who was the production designer, and we mocked it up in like a CAD program, and we put the camera in different positions to see where we would see off the volume. And
we saw off the volume.
Quite a bit. So 33 feet was where we ended up, and then 270 degrees seemed to make the most sense. There was 3 3 different companies involved. XR Stages is where we pulled the panels through.
Okay.
And then Lux Machina did all the on-set operation of the volume. And Monolith came in and provided the hardware.
So how long was production?
It was like 23 days, I think. max.
23 days plus a couple of
Plus a couple of days outside for plates and the ending scene.
I'm the anti-Scorsese because the film is about 85 minutes long.
Yeah.
So it's fast.
Yeah.
And a thriller needs to be fast.
But you're not really buying that now, are you?
Speaking of new technology, you guys used the Ronin 4D for about 3 minutes?
No, more.
More?
We used it on the inside of the cockpit as well.
Yeah.
There's no room.
There was a couple of shots where the camera was pulling back. I think there was one in the beginning.
Yep.
So anything on a gimbal inside, essentially any of those moving?
Not everything, but there's a shot in the beginning where I wanted to track Michelle after she straps Topher in to the front seat, and there was no way to get our full-size gimbal in there and get it as far back to track. So we actually took a dolly on a deck, mounted the Ronin 4D on the end of a pole, and pulled the dolly back to track her through the airplane.
Through the wind?
Yeah, we took off the windshield and we
That's
just pulled
awesome.
back. It photographs a lot bigger than it is because even me at 5'7.5" or whatever I am, I couldn't stand up right in the,
What a shame, you and me.
You.
In this case, the Ronin 4D was a perfect companion to the Sony Venice.
Doubt you could even land a jet out here.
We can see in one of the first opening shots, the small Ronin 4D was used as Madeline, played by Michelle Dockery, buckles in Winston, played by Topher Grace, and then gets to her own seat. We remain on this shot for part of the call, and a few seconds later, we cut. And when we come back, it's a different lens, different composition, and they've shifted to the Sony Venice A-Cam. This seems to be the gist of the use case. Shoot majority of the film with the Sony Venice, and then for the super tight shots where you need to get small, flexible camera head in there, you slide in the Ronin 4D with the flex head. This was the use case for my last video on the Ronin 4D with DP Rob Hardy from the movie Civil War. So while it seems the use case for the Ronin 4D was considerably less for flight risk than it was for Civil War, there was a particularly interesting section where the Ronin 4D literally saved the day and became the A camera.
We had an experience on this shoot where it became our primary camera. We had limited time because I wanted the sky to be just dusky, and we had like 2 days planned where we would shoot this sequence of landing and the plane crash. Literally, we had 90 minutes each day. So we planned it out all day so we'd hit that 90 minutes and get it. So the first night we're up and it's like, ooh, the sun's just getting right. The helicopter, the camera, the shutter gets stuck close, nothing works. And we're boned.
It was supposed to be done on a helicopter?
The way it was set up was it was supposed to be air to air. And it made me a little uncomfortable because I was like, we gotta have something else, like some sort of chase vehicle. So I brought this on my own.
This is your...
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't technically on the production, but I was like, I'm not gonna take a chance of not having something should something go wrong. Right. And unfortunately,
something went wrong.
The iris forced closed and they couldn't get the iris open on the camera. And when you're rigged up on the helicopter to get that thing de-rigged and figure out what the problem was.
Yeah.
And we had a 90-minute window to shoot because of the light. And we got nothing. And I said, what do we got? And he said, we got the DJI. I said, we don't have a camera truck.
Now, they didn't have any BTS for this day, and it's a little unclear how they exactly pulled this off. So I've added my own artistic license.
All right, get in the truck. Get in the truck. Go, 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 go. Go to the left. Right here. Riggs, you're 6 o'clock. I got you, Riggs. Riggs. I got you, Riggs. I hear you, Riggs. No, you're on the left. No.
Yep, that's exactly how it happened.
You want to kill yourself? I got the job done. What the hell do you want?
I mean, it's Martin Riggs we're talking about. Who's to say this didn't happen?
Those ended up being our hero shots. Our hero shots for the plane crash at the end.
The whole rest of the sequence is built around that shot, which is amazing because the light is perfect. It was just the right level.
4 takes.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to work like that, or do you like to have everything kind of mapped out? Do you like that sense of spontaneity?
Everybody likes to have shit mapped out, but nothing goes the way you think it's going to go or the way you plan. So you have to be adaptable, and this Ronin 4D saved our ass that night. From now on, I'm just going to keep one of these around.
Yeah.
If you're in a bind, they save your ass.
Now, before we go deeper into this film, the selfish part of me wants to back up a sec and ask a question about one of my favorite films, but not for the reason you'd think.
For presenting yourselves on this battlefield
I give you thanks. This is our army.
You've also juggled everything at the same time with Braveheart, directing and starring in it.
Yeah.
Do you like that more? What do you like more these days?
Well, it was amazing, but you get gray hair doing that because 7 days a week for 105 shooting days, having to be up before everyone and going to bed later, and that's when you used to watch the dailies on a projector, and it was like, oh.
But does it make it, is there a small part of it that's almost easier because that communication between director and actor of what you need for the shot is now...
Yeah, there's none.
It's like, there's no latency.
Yeah.
You know exactly subjectively what you need to tell the story.
Well, and you're far less indulgent with yourself as an actor, and you're just like trying to get the whole overview of the thing and do all the shots, and then somebody says, you know, I had a first AD director who couldn't move his neck. He was a British guy, and he's talking like that, you know, and he said, I think you better get in and do your shit now. And I'd be like, all right. So we'd jump in, and I'd be just 2-3 takes and out, because I was very aware of keeping the thing moving. So way less indulgent with yourself as an actor.
But you know what's funny is on the outside, people respect the out of you when you do that. You're like, dude, no, you told this, like, you honored the story and you nailed it.
I used to ask the first AD, how was that? You know, because you can't be totally objective when you're in it. And you know, we had that scene. I think we set up like 4 cameras. There's that scene where he's talking to all the troops on the horse, and the horse is going nuts. And I did 3 takes, and I jumped off and says, how was that? And he says, geez, I'm bloody British, and I'd fight in English, you know. And it was like, so it was pretty funny, you know. The experience of directing and acting and being responsible for all that was quite overwhelming. And I was 38 years old at the time, and it still kicked my ass. I was like, for a month after, I couldn't even talk to people.
But what a high that must have been, because I mean, you used your whole body and everything to tell that story.
Everything. And
it paid off, and it just smashed. It smashed,
yeah, but it was like, you had to recover from that.
Wow.
It was literally like a month I couldn't talk. I'm not kidding. I'm not even making that up. I couldn't even talk to anyone.
A whole army of my countrymen, here in defiance of tyranny.
I will say the one thing that most impressed me the most is the accent. Nailed it. You must have had a coach on.
The accent?
Yeah.
Everybody around me. We were shooting, we had all these, the Wallace clan and all these guys. I said, every one of them, I said, you need subtitles. And they'll all be talking like that, you know, you can understand like that. Oh, but you have to do it like that, you know. And you're like, I can't understand you. I actually had to make it so you could understand it.
So are you just preternaturally gifted with accents? Do you just pick them up?
I think I have a musical ear.
Yeah.
Someone like Meryl Streep can do accents better than anyone I've ever seen. She is flawless. I am not flawless, but I can get away with it.
Now that that's answered, back to the movie.
Okay. How far away are we?
About 18 to 20 minutes out.
I was very impressed with the lighting and the whole atmosphere and everything. I mean, what you guys pulled off is actually really hard to do, like shooting in a single location and then making it entertaining and on a volume.
Sure,
like,
and having seen the film, there's never a moment that I'm taken out going, it doesn't feel real, because I think we had discussions early on about how grounded in reality we want it, even for camera positions,
yes,
you know?
Everything.
So let's talk lighting. Out of the whole film, the lighting was probably the single best thing that stuck out. Now visually, it looks like they're on a plane, and that's not an easy thing to do. Part of what sells this is the reflections on the glass and shiny surfaces. If this was keyed out with green screens, this film would have been stuck in post-production for months.
Oh, holy shit. Oh,
but the plane with the volumetric lighting works.
Okay, here we go. And roll, please.
The skin tones, the movement, and even the lens flares. Now for one, we can see they needed a ton of external light to complement the LED screens. Those LED screens are not the best on skin tones, often testing with a TLCI in the 80s, but if you're lighting Hollywood royalty,
Yeah! How fun was that, huh?
you need to do better. These days, LED technology has been widely adopted, and we can see that they're using a ton of flat panels. The softboxes overhead, which is mostly filling the actors' faces and the inside of the plane, are full of Aperture Nova 600s. Those panels are CRI and TLCI 95, which is definitely as good as it's gonna get. Next, we can see the Aperture 1200D with an orange gel hoisted about 18 feet in the air. This one is simulating the sun. It looks like it's done by hand. They're doing a pretty decent job timing it out with the background plate. If we look at the final shot, it's really hard to tell that this is done on a screen. Outstanding.
Winston, how you doing?
Nice.
But the most interesting part of this whole volumetric lighting wasn't the LED screens. It was the plates themselves. The 24K pre-recorded movie plates that were played back on these giant, massive screens. How did you guys capture the rest of the volume scenery, the backdrop?
So that process was pretty incredible too. Again,
Helicopter, right?
a helicopter, yeah. With Michael Rollo, we use this thing called a long line. It's a 30-foot cable that comes down from a helicopter.
Yeah, the camera looked like a COVID virus. The lens is all.
There's like this missile that stabilizes and keeps the camera moving forward with a platter that had 6 red V-Raptors shooting 8K in portrait mode so that we could cover as much top to bottom as possible. So
great.
that on the volume, if Mel wanted the horizon higher, out the window, we could just lift the image because we had more room top to bottom.
And then that was flown on a helicopter.
It was on a helicopter with a 30-foot long
How fast
line.
are you guys going for these plates?
Yeah, 100 knots, 120 sometimes maybe.
But it's got that torpedo thing
Which
on that.
holds it straight forward.
Which kind of slows the momentum down.
Sure.
So maybe it wasn't even 100 knots, but you shoot the plates on that stuff, and then the background's always moving, even in all the.
Wait, let's back up. Shooting these plates was a 6 Red Raptor V configuration, all rigged up with Zeiss CP3 15mm lenses set to infinity and mounted to a custom 360-degree gimbal. This gimbal would effectively take away most of the drift and minor vibrations, while the bulk of the movement would be stabilized by the sheer weight of the rig. The whole camera system would be hard mounted to a custom-built wind vane. This wind vane would act as a yaw stabilizer and keep the entire camera system oriented relative to the airflow. Now, weighing close to almost 400 pounds, this entire unit would be suspended from a 30-foot long line, and camera systems would be operated by an aerial DP inside the chopper. The pilot, none other than Hollywood aerial cowboy, Fred North. Now, Fred and his team would also be handling other aerial shots, using a nose-mounted shot over gimbal with the Sony Venice 2 inside. And while the movie takes place in Alaska, the aerials and plates were all shot over the Sierra Nevadas in California. These plates would then be stitched together and screened back in real time on the 33-foot tall, 270-degree virtual walls. And as far as the realistic movements of the plane,
Then they had that weird guy with that weird gimbal.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah, the NACMO 2, I believe it's called.
what is that?
It's the hydraulic gimbal.
For the plane?
For the plane, yeah. And I can't remember the name of the system, but it was a little triangle like this.
It looked exactly like the big gimbal, but it was a tiny little gimbal, and the guy would just move it with his hand.
Wait, the plane was puppeted in real time? So NAC Effects is the special effects company behind the real star of the movie, the NACMO 2, a 6-axis hydraulically pumped, motion-controlled base system capable of lifting 16,000 pounds and an angle of 25 degrees plus or minus. This is the go-to unit in Hollywood for motion-controlled planes, cars, or whatever. Special effects supervisor Jesse Knoll controls the NACMO 2 with a miniature-scale, electronically tethered puppet gimbal. Now, the interesting thing is the movements are all choreographed in real time from the corresponding plates that were shot on location. And at 5,300 pounds, the Cessna Caravan 208 is easy work for the NACMO 2, conveying all the nuances of yaw, roll, and pitch. Did you have to move the imagery in accordance with when the plane tilts?
No, so the horizon would stay where it is.
He had to move the lighting.
Correct.
According to when the plane tilted.
Yeah.
You had to be, well, you talk about
Yeah, so
that.
if we had any sections where the plane is flying like this and then it banks, because the plane is moving, then our lights would have to shift.
Did you guys hard mount lights onto the planes?
No, we had a couple of movers up top on the volume, and because we didn't, I mean, the way that we would have loved to have done it would have been to take a techno crane and put a light on it and fly the light light over.
Yeah.
But budgetarily, that didn't make sense. So what we did was we put a couple of movers hard mounted on the volume, and then what I would do is one side the sun would start, and then we had a 20 by 40 panel overhead. I would trace like a fake sun over that panel, and then it would pick up with another hard light on the other side. So you would see the light go this way and end up over here.
So was this your first LED volume?
It was my first volume movie.
Bro, you knocked it out of the park.
Thank you.
I know it had its little wrinkles and stuff, but it was pretty smooth.
Yeah.
This must have been like a refresher for you, because like if you compare it to Apocalypto, being in that you guys shot that in Mexico and the swat like
Swatting, Bill Gates mosquitoes, it's got glasses on.
Who got who on board on this plan?
Oh no, I was learning everything like I was a neophyte on this. It was like I didn't know anything.
You've historically done that. You've taken lots of gambles and risks in your films.
Well, it's interesting to learn this stuff because volume wall it's relatively new. What have they been at it for like 5 years or something now?
Yeah.
I knew I had to figure it out because if you want to stay up with the whole thing, it's like the AI thing now. You got to figure it out, or you're going to get left in the dust. And if you want a gig, you got to figure it out.
And we had looked at another movie, and it was all done in an airplane just like this, but it was green screen.
Yeah.
And Mel really did not like the way it looked, because it
looked
felt
terrible.
phony at times.
I'm gonna have to spend my evening scrubbing blood off of it, but could have been worse. Could have been a prop chop.
Now, shooting on the LED volume, is this going to be something that you're going to try to do again in the future, you think?
Is it the right tool for absolutely everything? No. But is it the right tool for what we did in this circumstance? 100%.
Absolutely.
And I would definitely utilize it for more car stuff, car work, any plane work.
Any of that stuff.
Any sort of moving plate work, I think
Now,
is great.
you told me something surprising, that you use a polarizer for even skin tones and just that kind of thing. Were you able to use a polarizer using the LED volume?
Yeah, so that's something that's really important to me, is using a polarizer all the time, because sometimes it gives you just a little sheen on a skin tone where you need it, or sometimes you need to take it away. So it's a tool that I utilize all the time. And when I was prepping this movie, there wasn't a single person that I asked that was able to tell me if I used a polarizer, when I rotated it, was it going to cause the screens to go black? Nobody had that answer for me, and I couldn't believe that nobody had ever tested a polarizer on an LED volume.
Wow, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, you got to be kidding.
It was the first thing I did. That first day, I got a camera in there, I took a polarizer and I rotated, and it worked perfect.
I wonder if did it change any of like how much luminance you could see in the clouds on the screen, or did it just not change anything?
It didn't seem to change anything. Yeah.
Now, to show you how well this volume is working, here's a few real shots of the same mountains from the helicopter. And here's a BTS of the volume. If it wasn't for the sound and the cables, it would be hard to tell the difference.
And going back to how they controlled, so you were giving direction to the guy controlling the plane with his hand, is that right? You're like, all right, bank left, and this was this big coordinated effort.
No, I'd be on a mic saying, bump him now, and the guy'd rock him. And
Yeah, and there's a moment in there when we're in magic hour and the sun is just raking right through the window, and that's actually just an Aperture 1200D on a stand in the background, and I've got the guy on the gimbal, on the NACMO, rotating it so it comes in and out at different times, so it feels real organic. So it was really cool.
Okay, let's get into shooting mode, please. All right, here we go. Settling, no bouncing on the platform, and roll, please.
We definitely learned a lot in the process, and it's an amazing tool. It all starts with just having the right team in place. I mean, having the right visual effects supervisor at the start, to the team running the volume. Lux Machina did a flawless job. They were the only company that could ensure that the footage that went on the wall was unludded, right? They could ensure that the color and everything looked identical when I was looking through the camera, ludded to what we shot originally.
Now, what was it like cutting the footage together? Because you guys shot Sony, Venice, and then the 6K.
It's seamless. I mixed Genesis with Arriflex, film footage, and I'll mix 1080 with on Hacksaw Ridge with red cameras and the Arri. What's the Arri thing?
The Alexa.
The Alexa. But I'd mix them all up, and I think it's okay. Whatever tells the story. And okay, 1080 looks a bit dirty, but some of the things I was filming on these little black magics were it was supposed to look shitty.
I forget who said it, but if they're paying attention to the shot, then you're f***ed on the story.
Yeah,
that's
anyway,
right.
Yeah, the story is going to bring you in anyway.
Yeah, I worked with a guy called Mark Rydell. I was quite young. I was, I think, 26. And the shot was bobbled, or somebody made a bump or something like that. And he says, well, he looked at it and he said, that's all right. He said, it doesn't matter if it's bumpy. I mean, what's going on inside the shot is really interesting. I thought, okay, so long as it serves the image and doesn't call too much attention to itself.
Absolutely.
What was it like working with Mark and Topher? You were homies with Mark, right? That's your boy.
He was having a ball. And he went full creep.
It was very Jack Nicholson shining, I feel like, in the eyes when you watch him in some of that stuff.
He gets the bald head going. That was his idea.
The bald head?
I mean, I think my favorite moment on that entire thing was when his stunt double Rex had to shave his head to match, and his stand-in cowboy had to shave his head to match. Everybody got the awful haircut.
Wait. So did he not wear a bald cap?
No.
That was actually, he really went bald for it.
He took his hair off.
Yeah.
But everyone said, oh, that looks like a cap. And it's not, it's just his head, you know. That's the way his head looks. A little wrinkled, you know. Well, he's almost 50, right?
Right.
And what about Topher?
Topher's great. He's a very accomplished, great timing, and delivered a really nice, deep character, which I thought was pretty cool and funny.
Michelle
Dockery.
She was great.
Amazing.
I liked her.
I mean, she's mostly only done little thrillers, right?
No, she never does.
Downton Abbey.
She does the Downton
yeah.
Abbey thing. Yeah, she's the lady in the Downton, the British.
Is she British or?
She's British. Yeah. It's great to work with people of that caliber because you don't have to do too much. You just say action and cut, and they do the rest. It's great. I mean, everything happens to this guy in that film. He gets hit with fire extinguishers and flare guns and everything else.
It's a Looney Tunes cartoon at some point.
It's a bit, yeah, you're right. It's a bit Roadrunner.
Yep.
Acme rockets being fired into the...
I think you even dialed back some of that, didn't you?
I had to dial some back.
Yeah.
Because it got ridiculous.
What are you guys working on next?
I was thinking of using these guys and just get a couple of these guys and exclusively use those on a project. It's not a huge production, it's a small production, and I think you have to be light, you have to be malleable, you have to be able to just get down and dirty and grind it out, but not lose quality, and I think these cameras are f***ing amazing.
Probably gonna shoot the whole thing out of the back of Mel's truck as well.
Yeah, there you go. I was really blown away by how light and how the gimbals worked and how smooth it was and the image quality and all that stuff. And how you could program stuff in and look at it on the computer or have a remote, you know, it's just...
I had a sneaking suspicion that Mel would like it because back when we did Fat Man in 2020, I had bought one of these little guys for scouting, the Osmo Pockets, and I was showing Mel on set because I just shot something with it. But I brought it on set to scout, to just do moves to show the directors. And so I showed Mel on the set of Fat Man. He was like, that's pretty amazing. So I was like, insane. When we came to do this movie, I'm like, you got to see the big boy that they came out with.
Now, Fat Man, was that your first time working together?
Yeah.
It was.
What was that like? Love at first sight?
Yeah, it was great.
It was cold.
Is he your guy now?
Hey man, I got it because Fat Man looked great.
It did.
And I know they didn't have any time and they didn't have any money. They did. That's a kind of but it looks rich, you know. So I thought, okay, he knows what he's doing. And so, you know, it was a natural choice to sort of go in on flight risk and take the challenge with this guy.
It's pretty cool.
Oh.
I'm so very sorry, Madeline.
You guys did something interesting that there's no flashbacks and you don't really leave the cabin too much, or the cockpit.
Not too much.
Was there ever a draft where that was discussed, or was that the whole point? It was like, no, we want to have this like piece where it's fully self-contained inside the plane.
Well, you know, I wasn't adverse to the idea, but it just didn't lend itself that way. And of course, I mean, brevity is the soul of wit. I mean, this thing flies by in about 90 minutes with credits, you know. I don't think you get cabin fever on the thing. Just the vistas outside and the mountains and stuff, it's like...
Are you guys able to see what the budget was, or?
It was nothing. I think it was like 12 or 13 below the line.
Wow, I would have guessed higher.
It looks big.
But that's probably the volume.
I mean, again, it's just getting the right plates to put on that thing and then shooting it the right way. When we shut down that one day for the SAG strike, they said we could stay down 3 days, but that was it, because they said it was like a $60,000 a day burn on that volume.
Okay, that wasn't so bad, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're down 3 days, it's almost 200 grand.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
Dollars become important.
Yeah.
And we were on a tight schedule. But like, you know, I'm used to working on low budgets and trying to make it look better. On Hacksaw, I had 27 million US.
Wow.
And we had to do an hour of battle.
That's incredible.
And we got away with it.
And it was on what, the size of a football field too?
It was 100 meters by 75 meters wide. That was the battlefield. It was in the middle of a dairy farm. We dug it up. That was it.
That's amazing.
And it's just crazy what you have to, if you have to do something, you can do it.
Now, love this film or hate this film, it was eye-opening to watch the behind the scenes. Out of all the virtual productions I've seen, this execution ranks close to the top, where for the most part, the horizon doesn't take you out. For now, I'm excited for Mel's next big project, where he can throw a little bit more weight behind it and give us a taste of what we've known Mel for. Taking extraordinary risks, trying the latest and greatest equipment and pushing it to the max. Special thanks to Aperture Lighting for this incredible behind-the-scenes footage, and because DJI technically sponsored this video and not Sony, I'm compelled to include this closing segment.
And that's why I like this little puppy so much, because it just like, all of a sudden you got something, you don't need to hang it off things, you just grab it in your hand and go.
Do you like my Mad Max little thing that I did for you?
Oh yeah, it's very cool, man. Very macho.